let's continue our series of to-do lists.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we are talking about teams need to do to succeed in 2017. And there are teams that are in different positions, obviously. For SMU, for example, this is a year where we want to see them make a leap. We want to see them make a jump.
Yes.
And we want to see them go from maybe they're getting to a bowl to comfortably in a bowl and maybe even contending for a division title in the American Athletic Conference.
Yep.
There's that. UTSA is kind of a similar, but we want to see them continue the trajectory. They've had the great trajectory of improving, and becoming a force in Conference USA. We want to see that trajectory just continue. That would represent a good year. Let's talk about Texas. Let's talk about the Texas Longhorns, who are in a unique position. New coach, starting over.
New coach?
A new coach in, Tim Harris? No. Thor Harmon? No.
It's the guy that came from...
Tom Herman.
Oh, Tom Herman.
Right. Tom Herman. Tom Herman is the new coach.
Former Iowa State great.
Of course. New coach at Texas. He is taking over for Charlie Strong. And normally when a new coach comes in, there is a transition period of like, okay, give him a couple years to get his feet wet. I don't feel like that's the case in Texas because he is entering with a cupboard stocked full of talent. And I think there is a notion that Tom Herman needs to come in and he needs to win. He doesn't need to win the Big 12 in his first year, but he probably needs to win. He definitely needs to make a bowl. Probably needs to win 7 or 8 games for people to be like, he's got things on the right track. The expectations for him as a new coach are higher than I think other new coaches.
I do think that's true because if Charlie Strong was back this year and the personnel was exactly the same, do you think people would be so comfortably like, 7 or 8 games? I think they can do that. I think that's well with it. That's how it feels now. Oh yeah, they can win 7 or 8 games. Yeah, maybe more. Like that's
right.
7 or 8 seems like that's about what they'll win.
But that's what Texas is. Texas it represents high expectations. So how can they get there? What are the 3 things they must do to succeed in 2017? Let's start. Number 1, find an identity. So last year, Texas had a bit of an identity crisis. They come in and they want to throw the ball around. They want to use Tyrone swoops and short yardage. They want to have a balanced offense. You didn't really know what their offensive identity was. And then Dante Foreman started going nuts, and they said, why don't we just keep giving him the ball? And then their identity became, we're a run-first play-action team. That's what they were. That identity got set for them when Foreman started going nuts. Well, 2 things. 1, there's a new sheriff in town, Tom Herman, and 2, Dante Foreman ain't walking through that door. And there are big questions as to what this offense are going to look like. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think if they want to be a run-first type team, I think they've got the horses to do it. I think if they want to be a more passing wide-open team, I think they've got some weapons to make that happen. But what they have to do is they have to pick one.
Right.
They have to find out what their identity is and go with it. Now, obviously, things can change with injuries, okay? That if you want to become a pass-first team and then Shane Buechele goes down, okay, you're probably not going to put in a backup quarterback and throw the ball 50 times a game. But the number 1 thing, in my view, that Texas has to do to succeed in 2017, and it's number 1 by a mile, is just find an identity. Find out what your identity is and be that team. So there's that. That's number 1.
All right.
Number 2, stop the tink and dunk. So it kind of went underreported last year that even though I think Texas's defense, it was up and down, one thing they were not good at is stopping the short passes, okay? And look, with a lot of bend, don't break defenses, which is a lot like what Texas was last year, with a lot of bend, don't break defenses, you can live with teams completing a high percentage of passes. Texas gave up 87th ranked completion percentage last year. You can just say, all right, cool, fine.
Mm-hmm.
We can handle that. But that becomes problematic when you're also giving up the 93rd most yards per pass attempt, which means that these dink and dunks are not 3-yard passes. These dink and dunks are 7-yard passes.
Right.
And when you're just giving those up on a regular basis, that's bad. I know that seems really simplistic, but it's true. They have to find a way to, in many respects, you have to get your opponent into positions where they try to test you deep. Okay? I don't think Texas's safeties are the greatest thing in the entire world, but at the same time, I'm confident that if they give up as many completions as they did last year, then in the same way that they did, then they're screwed. Then they're hosed, because Texas has got to stop that dink and dunk because it killed them last year.
I bet they won't. I bet they'll get better.
You got to think. I think their corners are going to be better. Safeties probably about the same as last year, but you have to make it so that they cannot just kind of just chip away at you down the field.
I think the defensive approach is going to be more aggressive, which is going to put more pressure on quarterbacks, and I think that'll help.
I think so too, but they absolutely have to do that. And number 3, that's become road warriors. Like the movie, exactly like the movie, they need to strap themselves to the front of a truck and drive through Austin.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. We're done. No.
Yeah. I was going to say, really, just need to figure out how to win in places like Manhattan.
So, something that is
House
really
of Horrors.
interesting to me. It used to be, when Texas was flying high, right? When Texas was Texas. If they came to town, it was a problem for opposing teams. If they went to Stillwater, it's bad news for Oklahoma State. If they go to Kansas State, now that's probably a bad example because that's been a house of horrors for them.
Right.
If they go to Ames,
Well,
it's bad news for Iowa State.
everyone comes to Ames, and it's bad news for Iowa State. But
that's a good point. But my point is, it used to be when Texas was at their peak, when Texas was Texas, quote unquote, they were as good a road team as they were a home team. The last 3 seasons, that has not been the case. They went 6-13 away from Austin in the Charlie Strong era. 6-13, including 1-5 last year. Okay, that is a no good. They have to be better on the road, and they're going to get. And now, look, one of those games is Oklahoma. Neutral site.
So you're counting the neutral site as on the road.
Okay. Away from Austin is what I mean.
Okay.
Neutral site, but I understand that, that's a really tough game every year that you play at a neutral site. That may skew the average a little bit. But you cannot be okay at home and bad on the road. You have to at least hold serve on the road. And when you look at their schedule, I think that with the exception of maybe one game, they'll have a chance to do that. 2, maybe, if you include Oklahoma. USC is going to be tough. On the road, USC looks very good. It's going to be a tough game, plain and simple, at the Rose Bowl. Or at the Coliseum, rather. Iowa State, you should go to Ames and beat Iowa State. Yep. Baylor, this year, you should go to Baylor and beat Baylor. TCU, tough, but if you are Texas, writ large, you should be able to go into Fort Worth and at least be in it in the fourth quarter. At West Virginia, we think West Virginia is pretty down. I know Morgantown's not a destination people love to go to.
It's weird. But we feel like they're down, but I was listening to a couple of different other reports the other day, and there's some national people that West Virginia might be better this year.
I just don't believe that, but I'm talking into a microphone that's being recorded, so you guys can pull it whenever they go 11-1.
Let me bookmark this.
Thank you.
Yep.
For me, that's the biggest thing. They need to be better on the road. And when you look at that schedule, if they can just go 3-3 on the road this year, right? Lose to USC, absolutely. Right. Lose to Oklahoma, lose to TCU. But win those other ones, your home slate looks like the kind of thing you should be able to win. Maryland, San Jose State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and Tech. you should be able to do pretty well at home.
Yeah.
If you can just go 3-3 on the road and get back to even, that's a nice springboard to 2018 and beyond in the start of the Tom Herman era. Those are, to me, the three things Texas has to do to succeed in 2017.